Public comment. You wanna go ahead and make public comment, Debbie?
I like our nice little fall weather.
Right, right. Okay, got any, guess we don't have any minutes here either, so, any, updates on anything?
I have some. I probably won't share when I just took phone calls or emails, just because that's part of our job description. But there was a silos meeting last week. I think we've got to a good place with that. That'll be coming out soon. It was a joint project to have a planning, master plan done. And that was the commission, the trust board, BCDC, MBAC, and BOR. We also had another Board of Crime Control meeting last week, and those, of course, will be continuing. It appears we may have lost our first grant with the transition. That's a mentoring grant, something that we didn't have anything for Broadwater County at this point, but we have benefited in the past from those to extreme success. So, a couple of things I want to talk about a little bit later, but we have the Area 4 Agency on Aging meeting this week, and Sheila Haviland is going to be our representative on the the advisory council. She agreed last week, and I serve on the governing board, and so we'll be going together on Thursday and subsequent meetings. And that's all for now. We'll have some updates a little bit later as well.
I went through a bunch of files looking for the Montana Internet contract, and the only one I found was a proposed that hadn't been approved yet. Went through the BOR, the BLM, the TV district of Montana Internet files, and there wasn't anything in it with the current contract. Corey may have that.
And if I know you were looking specifically for that site, that contract with the site, that I believe is in the sheriff's office. That would be a
Okay.
sheriff's
Okay.
agreement.
It wasn't in any law enforcement or sheriff's department in those files. I'll contact Brandon.
That was negotiated with Brenda years ago.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah. Calls and comments, conservation meeting, otherwise just business as usual. I don't think we have any COSs. Two or 3 minutes early, but Debbie, I think you want to go ahead and start on the accounting.
I got the budget submitted. They want it all through a portal right now. And here's just kind of history and proof of kind of what this new portal, there's a separate access that you can go out to as a public user or as a registered user. It's basically the same. It's just as a public user, you can't upload, delete, or edit anything, it's just read only. So you can go and look at prior year's budgets for anybody and everybody, cities, counties, special districts. They're doing all this on the portal now, and there's got a public access, and so it's getting a little less paperwork. It's a good thing because the budget file itself was like 225 pages. So used to have to put it through the mail and all that kind of stuff. Well, now I just kind of scanned it, and the way the PDF works, it puts it all in one electronically, and it's done, and I know it's there. I don't have to worry about weather, mail, scrambling because it's past the deadline and there's snow on the ground type of thing. So it's good. In fact, we had sheriff's office. Somebody was trying to renew something for the sheriff's office, and Tammy sent them over to me because they wanted our annual report. And I walked them through how to check the portal, and they could look at all they wanted to, and it saved them time and money because not only did we not have extra copies and mailing costs, they could just go out to that link and they found it. So they were extremely happy to see that we have an access now online.
Oh, okay.
Used to be hit and miss and only employees and it was complicated. So, I'm not gonna sit up here. So it makes it easy. So I just printed it off so you can kind of see. They've got our past histories in there. This is something they just started the last couple of years, but it, you see the extra years in there. So it's made it a little more easier for public because I know Mike Conkey's another one that I need a copy of our budget. Well, instead of me printing off 225 pages or him printing costs, he can give them the link and they can go get it themselves if they want. If they really want it, have, paper, all trying to cut costs. So that's been kind of good.
This will come in handy too when comparing to other like counties. We can just go on this link and
Give this
get all
all
the
the county.
information, right? Previous to this, what we would do is call each and every one of them and ask our questions or send an email, which we can still follow up on for specifics, but this will give us a really good starting point for any of the investigations that we do.
It was kind
Thanks,
of fun.
Debbie.
And as they go, they upload where we currently right now have a blank. They'll fill that stuff in as they go with the valuations and revenues. See,
Awesome.
right now it shows there's nothing, but you can see the prior years, they put that in.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I was just out there looking, curious. So somebody takes time to sort through that. I know they have a specific format, but it's quite an interesting process to put it all together. And the annual report is done very similar. When we get to that point, we're done with our audit and of all the final changes to this last fiscal year and it's ready to upload, it'll be done the same way. We just have to put it all together, renumber the index to comply with our actual report. It's easier than it used to be, still time consuming, but it's gotten easier. Because it's, it's done. I don't have to put it in the thing and make sure it gets to the post office, then have them say, oh, sorry, it didn't get here, it's a day late, now you have a late fee, type of thing. Changes. Going to technology.
It's interesting to look at our total market value in 2009 was about a little bit more than half of what it was 2 years ago in 2015. And our our taxable value increased by very little. It looks like less than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But for almost a 50% increase in market value.
Yeah, it's fun to look at that.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty telling.
You want to compare city to, there's all the different cities, you want to compare city to city, and it's been, because I could spend time playing.
You can see where the Heidecker decision hit us hard too in
Yes.
this, at a glance. Wow.
Yeah. They do a better job of putting it in a nutshell than I do, or could.
Huh. That's gonna be fun to look at and learn.
Some ongoing projects we're gonna be working on. I'm getting our online time card set up. There's a lot to getting the pay types and things set up that Michelle and I have been working on in between claims and payroll and things to get ready to go. We've been doing some cleanup work. So hopefully the data entry is easy for the employees to do. It's a little more complicated right now, and I think that's part of when we converted. We had it entered the way CSA did it. So I'm gonna go in and make some changes to where instead of sheriff's deputies is their regular position, it'll just be regular pay. So everybody's a regular pay when they go in. So there's some little payroll setups and changes to do to make it easier for the online. part of it. So we're getting there. I didn't realize it was gonna be that time consuming. And we're just working on getting ready for audit. Jonathan was here helping us with our fiscal year close, and they got a lot of stuff for our audit then. So we're gonna be working on that as soon as they are ready and start saying we need a few cleanups. And then just, we're getting to the end of the year, so we're getting ready to gear up for W-2s and 1099s. We got our form to order our forms from Q Business the other day to remind us. And that's pretty much it for the accounting department. Michelle's back from a little procedure. So we're back to usual. She's doing good. She's working on claims. She's got a lot to do to catch up. So we're just kind of keep going, getting ready for year end. It's not a whole lot going on in our office. We like our Bear desks. We've been using those. It's helped being able to stand up and not feel so fatigued at the end of the day. So that's been good. Kind of put off ordering my new chair, thinking maybe if I'm standing more, I won't need my chair so bad. So I haven't ordered that. So on the finance side of things, we did get our entitlement cut last minute. It's going to be about 9,000 less than we expected, almost 10,000, 9,921.63 to be exact.
Can you explain what the entitlement is?
It's kind of a, oh goodness, in a nutshell. It's tax money, motor vehicle tax money, things that they don't collect that come in this other form, that the state guarantees we get. There's been several legislative bills. I know motor vehicle is one of them. And so they call it entitlement. And then it's for the county to distribute within its entity where they need it to go. We played around with it. It could all go to general fund or not. This year we split it up between the general fund, district court, library planning, public safety, and our health insurance. Kind of helps offset some of the lost revenue between motor vehicle taxes, not property taxes.
Business equipment tax.
Business equipment, that was a big one, yeah. And they change little tweaks every year, and the legislature, last minute, one of the House bills changed it. I don't know all the details on that one, I just know when I was trying to work on books and going through budget, it was less. So I had to work with Melissa, because she had the payment and it didn't match what I told her she should get. Long story short, that's what I found out, that they changed it, so that'll hurt us, because that's less revenue than we were expecting to distribute amongst those funds. It's about $2,000 a quarter, $2,400. So that's not going to help. When I was working on the budget, we had the elected official salary, but it made me remember we don't have our salary resolution for all of us. So I don't know if we still needed one, wanted one. So I got that ready to look over and sign. Hopefully there's no obvious errors.
We should probably advertise this, and could we also get the org chart to go with this, an updated org chart?
That is done because I had to submit that.
Fantastic. This looks good at a glance. We can all review it prior to the hearing. I think the law just requires elected officials, but this is a good thing to have for transparency purposes.
Yeah, we've done it ever since I've been here, so it's a tradition we can keep or not. It's entirely up to you, but it does help the public when they want to see what does this position pay. It's in a public format for everybody to see unfiled. And then it's easier than to have them come in and have me look it up for Michelle. And then it doesn't name names, so it kind of keeps our identity somewhat confidential, even though we know who works where. And, I actually had time, getting the budget done and everything, to kind of take a look at how our expenditures are doing. I did send an email, I don't know if you guys got it or read it. We should be about 25% of our spending, and most of us are there. I went through and identified possible budget amendments where we spent and we didn't get budgeted for that line item. So I'm working on those to get those, so we'll have a hearing. Instead of waiting till the end of the year, we'll kind of have maybe a mid-year one done. I'm waiting for revenues to kind of come in and then check with some of those departments to see if they want to allocate another line item to that, so it doesn't change their bottom line spending. Just takes some spending authority away from one and puts it in another one. I still have to work on that, but I wanted to see how we were doing with our spending and make sure we're doing okay. And so far, I went through anybody who was over 25%. I went and looked to see why. A lot of them are yearly one-time fees, publicities, association dues, large purchase item that's a one-time thing that hit this year, the beginning of the year instead of the end of the year. I looked for negatives showing they've overspent to see why. So that if they did overspend, are they aware of it and why? A good example was the dishwasher heating element for the senior center. They'd only budgeted $250 for that line item and it cost $263, so they went over that line item. So I was looking for things like that to see what happened. So we can kind of keep an eye on that. Another good example. Being to put his new dump truck under his regular fund instead of his CIP for machinery and equipment. So that's just a simple journal entry to switch from the one fund to the other. Since that's where we budget, because what caught my eyes, we didn't have money budgeted for it in his regular budget, but we did his CIP. So those are some of those things in those reports that I looked for.
What was that under, Debbie? Was that machinery and equipment?
Yeah, it was under the road and then machinery and equipment for
It's the
53.5. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So some of those I've adjusted and put the copy of the journal in your box, just to show there was a clerical, technical, human error, which can be fixed without a budget amendment. And like in the weed, he wasn't expecting to buy new six-wheeler. We didn't have it budgeted, so that'll need an amendment. So there's some little things like that now I gotta work with the departments on what they want done. Make sure they got revenue to cover it. Fair is one I need to talk with Jessica about. She's spent 46% of her overall budget. And I know hers is right at the beginning of the fiscal year, so I think it will balance out, but I want to talk with her just to make sure. She spent $4,000 in her operating supplies and another $2,500 in her awards.
And that would probably be because the fair is right at the beginning of the fiscal year.
And so I just want to make sure, I know sometimes money comes back and goes back in there, so I just want to check with her, make sure there's nothing lagging that she's missed or we've missed and all of that. The ArcMap software in planning, Nicole didn't have it budgeted for her, so that'll need an amendment. But I need to check with her, make sure where the revenue authority's coming from that, or did she have it budgeted? corner supplies, they ordered supplies but didn't budget anything for it, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. And then there were some where people for some reason are wanting to put revenue in their expenditures. So I've been working with Melissa and fixing those and trying to educate, as I kind of said in my memo, they really shouldn't go there. It's not like a one-time $20 reimbursement because you wrote a personal check for something. It's not really good accounting principles to put a revenue in an expenditure. So we're fixing the A101s to put them in a revenue account. And I'm trying to explain to those that you can keep track of it. You just have to look at your revenue report and show, so you can see the in and the out revenue in, where you spent it out, so you know it's a wash. If you're watching that, then you shouldn't have a problem with overspending a line item. Just need to make a note that it's done and check it off, and then you don't have to worry about it. So there's a couple of those that I'm working with. Allison was one that had a question, because they had receipted something, paid for something, and those people paid it back. And she was worried that they would overspend their line. So, you shouldn't if this is what you're doing, and I can see the ins and the outs, so it's just, requires a little more effort maybe, at looking at the two separate reports. Public safety does have a negative in their public safety machinery and equipment. It's another vehicle that we didn't have budget for. I know they've got their CIP vehicle, so I need to catch up with Win somewhere, somehow, and talk with him about that. There was a lot of last minute at the end of the year funding, so I just need to make sure, there again, that we balance revenue with expenditures, that I didn't miss anything. Something new that changed after the fiscal year started is DIS used to charge us yearly for our email support. And now they want us to pay it monthly. So we've had to make some changes. People will see them in their reports, a monthly email in their object lines. Most likely they're contracted services for their monthly email. It's still, average is the same, but now it's just gonna have more entries and more work on our side. I don't know why they had to do it that way, other than additions and deletions made it easier for them to track charging they don't know. Something they're having us do, so there's changes there in case anybody asks. Other than that, there's not a whole lot, just little cleanups. I think we're doing good so far. The next quarter will be the real test of how we're doing. I think it's been good. I think the quarterly emails and having people come in here, they like coming and seeing you, I think for the most part too, so that you guys are all aware and it's not going through me or Michelle and telling you, or you see in a report. They get to tell you themselves, and I think it's helping with the communication. Some people are like, why do I need to come? Well, it's because you do, it's a change. You just need to come talk, it's not that big of a deal, you're not that scary, so, yeah. I think it's better you hear it from the department heads, rather than third way. Because then you can ask the questions that only they would know, and then we're not, I don't know, I'll check, it just isn't efficient to do that, so. Any questions on budgets? Things you want to see? Heard? Want me to look into?
This is probably the most important thing we do. It's the number one job description in our job description. So I guess I do have some questions. First off, the email that you sent out, thank you for that. Are you going to send out a secondary email kind of reminding people about the 10%? I shouldn't say people, the general fund, about the 10%, so like in, December, the end of the second quarter, they should be at, what, 45?
Mm-hmm.
The end of the
Yeah.
third quarter, probably at 65? Be 75 minus 10%, so maybe
Yeah.
67. And then at the end of the year at 90%.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
kind of my goal, just to be more open on my side too as I work on this. I'm having Michelle his help because she picks up on a lot of this stuff, the day-to-day stuff that's time consuming, that gives me the time to do this, that I haven't had to do, so that's been good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where kind of was the goal, to kind of update, and that's kind of why I decided to do the email. So everybody know at once, little things I'm seeing, noticing, and as I verify revenues with people, there'll be little reminders too. And in general, I think it'll help. We won't know until we try how well it works, but at least we're communicating this is what we want you to do.
Mhm.
I know this first quarter was hard, a lot of things right at the beginning of the year, trainings that we won't have now. I think as winter gets here, we're not out, we'll be home more, so maybe there will be less. It's harder to do when there's snow and cold, depending on our jobs.
Right?
So, but I know people who work outside, hopefully there'll be less. I don't know about, road department's another story, but, don't count them right now.
Well, and they have their own fund,
Mhm,
which is looking pretty
I see more
solid.
of our internal located people.
Yeah.
Museum, senior center, courthouse, jail. Maybe if it's snowing, people will stay home, stay out of trouble, I don't know.
So,
yes, to answer your
our-
question.
publicity, subscriptions and dues is at 60% for commissioners. Anything alarming there? Or is that some one time?
It's your yearly Mako dues was the biggest thing, and I think that was like $4,000.
Okay,
That was a big chunk right off the bat, but that was yearly dues. Mako's yearly dues.
okay.
I wrote that in the margin in my reports. Because I was curious too, what happened. And I think the new tax code books that come out was also in there.
Oh,
Because they
okay,
just came out, so that's right off the bat charge.
all right.
So I think other than that, it's just newspaper, subscription, dues, publicity for the agenda every week
Okay,
is all that
So-
should be left out of that this year.
okay. So district court, law and library, I thought we married that into district court. I see an expenditure without any authority.
Yeah, that is the county attorney's LexisNexis for their online law library type stuff. Where they used to do the books. Now it's online law access. Michelle we were just talking about before I come up here because she got a message that there's no budget authority. She's putting in a claim.
Should that go under then?
So it's misleading when it says district courts, law library. That's been there forever.
But since we didn't give any budget authority to 410337, should it be having expenditures in it?
Well,
Yes, that's my question.
Well, that's one of the questions that I need to follow up with,
Okay.
is check with Corey on that. to
And he's
see-
right behind you too.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a surprise to me, because I had been putting in my subscriptions, that's where I've.
That was gonna be a
been
question, if it's
paying
out
for
of your
license.
budget.
Say again?
But that was gonna be out of your budget and not just
Yeah,
that separate
I'm the only
district
one
court.
who uses it, just nobody from district court uses it, so.
Right, it's mislabeled, it's been that way forever, I don't know, I think it's because it's the nature of the account code from the BARS book. That was
Yeah,
gonna be a
okay. I thought
question.
whenever we did an invoice for that we did it out of that line item for my subscriptions, because that's where I've been,
Well, the
Pretty
account
estimate.
code is 410337, which isn't yours, yours is 411110.
okay,
So that's why it shows up separately
okay.
and set up. But that was gonna be a question
I would
Later,
recommend that you roll that into my.
that it goes back into yours, okay.
Budget
Now,
amendment
now,
Yeah.
for the law library itself, I'm not aware of any expenditures that have happened there. Basically, what happens is from time to time, if we get the new version of the code, we put the old code in the law library, and so slowly we're putting books in there, but I don't know that there's been any expenditures for it. It's being used primarily for the substance abuse counseling, and then occasionally there's other meetings in there, but I don't know. Nobody uses it other than for that, or for occasionally the self-help law. People from the state law library come down and they'll use me, but they bring their own resources, so.
Yeah, see, when I first started here, it was actual books, it was an actual room full of law books.
Right,
And then there was problems with weight and they got rid of it, and then Carla came and wanted to do online. And this has
Yeah.
just been their carryover forever, so
Right.
we can fix that. Okay.
So, data processing. Is that a one-time, issue or event that we had where it's already at 56%?
Yes,
Okay.
are you looking at yours or our general data process?
I'm looking in the general fund still, data
So the
processing.
410580?
Yeah.
That one line was the Michelle scanner for claims,
Oh, okay,
put the special claims in, so that's why that line item's high.
all right, so the one-time investment,
Mhm, mhm.
okay.
Of course, this stuff all hit right the first quarter of the year.
And that's fine, I just wanted to know where it
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah.
Okay. Maintenance, 411230. The senior center, I see the dishwasher piece in there.
Mm-hmm.
They do have an account, will that be reimbursed?
Need to check with Mike and
Okay.
get more details on that one. That's one of those ones I need to follow up with. Cause you know, he had in his budget these line items for the senior center, public health that he put him into.
And the
But I
detention
agree
center?
that the
Museum?
senior center has their own, and I think they even have a CIP with a little money in it. That
Okay,
he might not have remembered at the time.
and I know he has a little bit in here for incidentals, I'm just thinking that's
Yeah.
bigger than an
This is bigger.
incidental?
Mhm.
Okay,
Cause this won't I mean, it blew the whole budget for the year.
right, for incidentals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he, of course, is exempt from the 10% because he cut his budget by almost 10% at the beginning. Just as a reminder to you guys. Okay, any questions from you two? Matt? Okay. I'm gonna continue on then. Civil defense. Overall, it's at 28%, which is, or 29%, which is not alarming. Are there some one-time expenditures in there with the office supplies and operating?
Yes, he had, his fiscal year doesn't end until September 30th.
Oh.
So he went and
yeah.
spent money for that fiscal year, which is out of our fiscal year, but then he submits a claim and gets reimbursement.
Okay,
So that will have to have a budget amendment to give him spend authority based on the increased revenue. That overlap federal from our fiscal year, I hate it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then his contracted service, it was an annual fee for something, and that put him up to 41 annual service. I didn't write what. But it's a once a year thing.
Okay, all right. And public health is also exempt from the 10% because she came in at 45% of her budget from last year. But her utilities,
Yeah, that and Clearfly, and I'm not sure if they've gone up more in reading the utility services over there for city water sewer stuff. If they raised the rate over there.
oh,
Yes.
they did by quite a
yeah,
bit,
by
60% or
Pretty
something?
close, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay.
It went from like 45 to 90 something.
I noticed the ambulance building was or extension was way
SLC.
high as well. I didn't look at road, but I bet they're the same.
They raised garbage, and they raised
Yeah.
garbage because of the new garbage truck, and they raised water and sewer because they have to redo the lagoon.
Okay. All right.
We're probably gonna, did we get a jump here?
Well, not noticeably yet, because the budget's
None of the others jumped out like public
jumped
health
out,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll see an increase. Although I think Mike already budgeted that in.
He might have, because I think he was expecting it.
Yeah. So, that might already be reflected in some of the budgets, and
And
maybe
we
that one
didn't
just got
think about
missed.
that, and that's something we need to talk with Michelle about too, is she sees some of that I don't, that maybe, if one increases, we need to work on them all, cause I think that's what happened. I didn't know they increased, Mike adjusted his, and these are gonna show it,
Yeah.
cause yeah,
Planning some general questions I'll ask you later. We paid for Nicole to go to the water.
and that was a note I had
Conference.
made.
I think that's probably gonna be an amendment.
Mhm.
Okay,
I saw that one, cause she split it out between several, and went, ooh, this
Yeah.
wasn't planned for, so.
right, and it's pretty expensive. One of the things we need to work on is getting our safety committee going again. With Brian on light duty, this is a great opportunity for us. There's a little bit in this budget, but the thing is the ability for savings to have a healthy safety committee is substantial to this county. Can more than pay for what we have in the budget. We can also get some on top of that, and then the amount of money we can save with work claims and people out of work and hiring people to take over while they're gone. The savings is astronomical if we get that going again. And I think that's all the questions I had on expenditures. Do you guys have any follow-ups? Like I said, this is the most important thing we do. All right, I guess that's it for you, Debbie, on expenditures.
Really interesting, until we get taxes, there was really not a whole lot that jumped out at me. That odd or unusual, cause some of it's hit and miss. So I didn't really notice anything unless you did. Or
On
questions.
revenues?
Mhm.
I had a few. Any update on, solid waste? Has Brian talked to you about their plan?
Nope.
Does he have one yet?
I have no idea.
Okay, we'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah, I know he briefly talked with Jonathan when he was here. Jonathan says you're gonna need to raise your rates, but whether he got up in time with Department of Revenue to make those rate changes. He talked with you, said I'm gonna do it, got your blessing,
He hasn't talked to us,
he
no.
hasn't talked with us either.
Okay,
So if I was guessing, he probably didn't. I just don't know.
okay. Just two updates. Jess thinks that Department of Revenue will be closing Department of Revenue here in Broadway County. Hopefully, if we get a chance, we'll be able to advocate for that being a really dumb idea, since we're the second, sometimes the third fastest growing county in the state. This is probably not good for Broadwater County to have no Department of Revenue presence
So
here
they're not needing
to
any
track
more-
that new building.
No.
Mm-mm. No. So that could be very bad for our budgeting, for the citizens who come in with questions for Department of Revenue, because I have a feeling they'll be hitting your window
Oh, yeah.
and they won't be happy.
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is not a good proposal. The other thing, Carol Anderson talked to me the other day. One of the items on the current state chopping block is Meals on Wheels. That's our conjugate meals. We do take in some money from taxes for that, but it is used as a state match, which is used as a federal match. And one of the things that the state's doing right now is they are looking at cutting some of our matches for federal programs. So the state's able to say, well, we cut $1, but really what that equates to is counties lost $4 in many, many services. This is just Meals on Wheels. Carol asked me where I stood on that, and I told her this is just my opinion. I hope I'm not the only commissioner with this opinion, but we have to have Meals on Wheels. The people who receive Meals on Wheels, that is oftentimes their only nutritious meal of the day. The other thing that makes that program so important is that sometimes the only person that person receiving the services sees. There have been numerous examples in Broadwater County alone of a Meals on Wheels volunteer. All we're doing is paying for the food. The volunteer goes to somebody's house and somebody has fallen down they can't get up. And without that Meals on Wheels food delivery, they would have potentially slowly died in that position. That volunteer has gotten them emergency help, has gotten them into the hospital, and ambulance, or just helped them get off the floor. So just put in your memory banks. I don't know what's gonna happen, but if they cut Meals on Wheels, we may have to act. Again, I'm just speaking for me, but I just don't see that that's negotiable. So, any thoughts?
If we have to fund that, what do we have to fund, salary and gas?
Like I said, they're volunteers, so there's no salaries. I do believe they get a reimbursement for gas. So, there would be some of that. I don't know if the state's going to completely back out, if they're just gonna drop the federal match, I don't know. If we're able to work through, and this will be talked about on Thursday, but if we're able to work through the Agency on Aging and counties could pick up that match, perhaps we can still get the federal money. We'll have to see. That's all funneled through Rocky Mountain Development
Yeah.
Corp. Through Agency on Aging. So I'm sure you guys will be talking about it at your quarterly meeting too, but that's potentially a really big deal. So everything that the state cuts of county programs is gonna have to be picked up somewhere, or we're not gonna have it, yeah. So, yeah. I'll be curious though what you find out about Rocky, or find out at Rocky about this particular subject, and if they're gonna cut senior centers as well and all the medical aid that they get, the ombudsman program, especially with that new grant on elder abuse. These are not cuts that are okay. So changing gears, looking at revenue, all I saw were a bunch of kudos, really, at this point. I do see entitlement share, and Steve McCullough explained that to me years ago. He said the most simple way to understand entitlement share is it's money collected in the counties that goes to the state, and they take their share, plus whatever else they want, and send the rest back to us.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty telling, yeah. I like the way Steve has of simplifying complicated stuff. But yeah, revenue, all I had, we don't have any taxes that have come in yet. I did have one question under, public safety, interfund operation transfer, 50,000, is that 43.8? The fund we started from PILT,
Yes,
okay,
those are transfers I need to do,
okay.
that's the other half.
And then, there was one more question. And that was for the 30,000. Was that already transferred over, or is that also an amendment?
For who, what?
For Julie? No, that one's not gonna come in,
Um,
unfortunately. Yeah, I lost it now, so maybe it was an expenditure. Let me double check real quick. Oh, no, other miscellaneous revenue under general fund of 30,000, is that for maintenance? It's
Yes, that was-
32,000?
The 30,000 in public space, safety
Okay, all right,
to general fund for maintenance.
all right. I just didn't know other miscellaneous revenue. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Do you guys have anything? Thanks, Debbie.
It'll be interesting to see with taxes, how it goes. Well, I think, I'm looking at, in total, anything over 25% is a good start. And general fund certain fees, 34%,
Yeah,
you know, it's pretty good. 36, 33, start off the quarter right, you know. Keeps going on that strong. The rest of the year, it'll be more than we expected.
absolutely.
So that'll help offset those that don't pay their taxes, or the revenue that we thought we were gonna get that we're not gonna get. We'll
Right.
just offset it. Hopefully it's enough to cover it. That's all I can hope for.
Right. Thank you.
So it was good to see. I think everybody's taking it to heart this year, trying. Willing to work at it.
When are the taxes going out?
Doug told me this morning he's gonna do one last run through. He had to change something on the school FP9 report, but it didn't change the mills. So he said this morning he's gonna go through it again, compare with Department of Revenue, but he might be able to start printing them this week. So I think he's ready. So then the fun begins.
Different kind of fun.
Yeah. Some of us like it and some of us don't.
Right.
But yeah, just kind of fun. Everybody gets together and folds and seals and runs the postage and,
We're going with a new company, I think.
are you?
Yeah, he told you guys about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
That's
hear
why we
that.
wanna get them done now, so that we have time to get them to a new company. to do that.
Okay. So you guys will have to seal and stuff and postage?
Mm-mm. Well, I don't know, I think postage was included in that, in this.
Be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
We'd have to ask Doug.
well, that will be a surprise. Oh. I like that good news. Well, that'll be less headache for everybody, I think. It's always so chaotic.
Mhm.
Everybody trying to get it together and,
The only time it's really chaotic is when something goes wrong with Department of Revenue.
yeah, and it's happened, what, 2 years and last 3?
And that usually happens in October.
At the last minute.
Right,
I'm not gonna jinx
Yeah.
it this year.
right.
That's why I
Yeah.
didn't wanna jinx it.
Yeah.
So. Any other questions? Things you need me to do, look at? Follow up on?
Good for me, I guess. Thank you, Debbie, for
Mhm.
bringing us up to date on everything.
Need to do more of it. I think this once a quarter will be good. Well, you guys come in and chit chat a little more too, so that helps. A little more informal. I like that.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again.
There's nobody in here today. It's too quiet. Not used to that.
Corey?
Well, I'm not on your agenda, but I want to just give you a quick update on the stuff we worked on last week. And I understand that, is it Granite County sent us a letter on the litigation, and they're gonna contribute to that?
Right, it's, yeah.
In full.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I did get a letter also from Powell County saying they can't afford, so I'll send that to you. So I'm gonna work the phones a little more on the other counties and see what we can do there. Blackfoot, I did all those edits on the contract. I spoke to Scott Lester Friday. He's going to arrange a conference call Wednesday with their attorney, so we're still working on that. And that was the date that he requested because they couldn't do it before, so I'll let you know. I'll have that call with them on Wednesday afternoon. And if any of you wanna sit in, it'll be in my office, but if you don't want to, I'll just drive on with what, and I don't know if you saw those edits, if they made sense to you. What I did is I highlighted the language in the contract, and then I put a footnote at the bottom of that page with what my questions or comments were. So if any of you have any either things you want me to add, or if you have any of those changes, if you wanna give me feedback on them prior to Wednesday, that'd be fine.
What time's it gonna be on Wednesday?
It's, I think 2 PM Wednesday afternoon, is what I believe, so. Then I met Friday with, Mr. Seifert from Montana Internet, went over the BLM stuff. They are gonna, pay that. He was convinced he had already paid it. Turns out that they have I think 3 of these in different parts of the state, so they've paid the other ones and they haven't paid this one, so they are gonna pay that, those 3 that are outstanding, that we've already paid, and then they're gonna pay, so as soon as we get the bill for 2018, then,
Get you a copy?
just, send it to them,
To them,
to
okay.
Mr. Seifert, his first name escaped me, Chuck Seifert, and, they'll pay that. And then they, so that's good news, that's a chunk of revenue.
Thank you.
And then, there's another issue, but the other ones I haven't had time to work on much more. I did get the Longhorn documents from Nicole, so I'm working on that, the Longhorn Crossing documents, so, okay? So, that's what I'm working on.
Thank
I've
you
got a
very much.
lot of court tomorrow, so I'm prepping it. We've had a couple of messy things happen on the weekend, so probably got some new felony cases, so if you need me, I'm around.
Corey, do you wanna read this letter from Granite County?
Yeah. It's wonderful. That's great. Well, good. That's great.
I guess you'll probably be the one in contact with them, it's where either you or Win, I guess, huh?
Sure, we can do that, and so I'll just get the, I guess I'll just have them direct it to that litigation fund, and then Debbie can just put it in where it needs to be. Like I said, I haven't heard from any other county yet, but I'll be working with them.
It was
on that.
Powell said they couldn't afford it.
Powell said they couldn't, so they're replacing a vehicle, and then they had another, I'm gonna guess it was July, they had another pretty crazy situation and a shootout, and what'll end up being an attempted homicide on one of their deputies, in fact, the same deputy that was involved in this case. So they've lost one vehicle they've had to replace and possibly a second now this summer, so they just said things are a little tight right now. But what I'm gonna do, is, I think it would make sense to write a letter back to them, saying we understand, and then also saying that if they have an opportunity next budget year to contribute, but that would still be useful, because I think we'll still be going into this next year.
Yeah,
Okay? All right?
sounds good. Well, thanks, Corey, for the
Thanks,
update.
Corey.
okay?
I'd also like to get a card, a thank you card, and just sign it in person for
Yeah,
Granite
that's a great
County.
idea. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get that in.
Even, I was wondering if there was a way publicly to thank them. Would that be a way to go?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you?
Kyle, did you have something?
I just wanted to come by and thank you guys. That investment in Broadwater Health Center has been incredible. We were down to a very short wire, and a positive piece is we hit $680,000 revenues for the month of August. But we were right under that, 675,000 in expenses. But that's the highest revenue month we've ever had. And I'll just tell you that we were gasping for air, and that came at the right time, and it's a big deal to us. And it may, I'm hoping that's the hump we needed to get over. We also have talked with State Department of Health, and they're pretty much good to go for the November 30th conversion into the critical access hospital. But they're gonna hustle to see if we could do it at the end of October, because we've got the right numbers of residents, and we could actually go sooner. And that would get us on the Medicare formula for all of November, which could mean somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000 getting there sooner a month. So I just can't believe you don't have an audience here.
What'd you say the expenditure was?
About
How
675,
much?
675,000. And we actually drew down about 350,000 of the investment. So we need it badly, and I really appreciate it. It's a ton. But, you know, lab procedures are up, CT procedures are up. We actually saw 32 patients in the clinic on Thursday, that's a new record. So little things are happening in the right direction. I don't know if you've heard anything good or bad about Dr. Kinney at this point.
I haven't, no.
I am out of sourdough mix, by the way.
What's that?
I am out of sourdough mix, by the way.
Oh,
You know, it's the end of this month on a 90-day to 90-day contract. It's 5 years now.
there. You know, that sourdough, she had that start, I think it's 48 years now. She's given hundreds and hundreds of starts.
Oh, I bet.
And people lose it or whatever, but yeah, it's been quite an ongoing,
It's incredible. Annoying?
no, ongoing.
Ongoing. Because people keep asking. Any questions, concerns, issues? We did make the $60,000 payment on the 120 to the Townsend State Bank, and they don't have a problem of extending that to the next year. And I think you guys signed off, I can't remember, right? Saw something, I think.
We
in there was.
yeah.
Yeah.
We will be today, Mike?
Yeah.
So they'll have an official letter
Yeah.
from us that we're good with it.
I told them verbally what the deal was, but they cashed that check, so that locked them in, I think, guys.
Very good.
You know how banks are, they want a lot of checks. We've got, Dr. Kenny, Jill LeBlanc, Greg Sayers, and Tammy Chambers are the main providers, and they're doing a great job as well. Probably the Circle 100 group approved buying a ventilator. So the ventilator is also a ventilator CPAP. Actually, we could have used that on 3 patients over the last 2 weeks, and would have kept one from being transported. So that's a big deal. We need to get that on board. And we have a respiratory therapist that lives out in Man Cave City, and he wants to be a part of our team, even though he works up at St. Pete's. And so we'll get that respirator intact and going. That's a big deal for us.
What is it again?
Respirator, it actually will
Oh,
breathe for you, but it also, a CPAP unit it keeps a level of oxygen through your lungs. Sometimes, we've got a lot of COPD patients here in the county, and it's just something we need to get going and doing. That will get us closer to the respiratory therapy department, but we'll need a full-time respiratory therapist to do that.
One of the things too for us to remember is that person who was transported that otherwise wouldn't have to be, they pay at least 10 to 20% of that out of their own pocket because their insurance doesn't cover
Yeah.
the whole thing. And that's provided they have excellent insurance. If they don't, they're paying a whole lot bigger chunk out of their own pocket. So that could save one of our citizens a lot of money.
Well, and it's like 30 grand for a helicopter fixed wing to Great Falls. It's a lot of money.
Were they airported or air
Yeah,
flighted out?
we finally